It's sounding like, okay, so we have an even bigger purpose as parents than I thought we did. Right. So often our purpose of parents starts to get clouded by just the changing diapers, making sure they're fed, making sure they're bathed, and all that. And forget that we have even bigger purposes than that. And so I'm thinking about other parents out there like you or like myself who are listening to this and maybe getting a little stressed, thinking, oh goodness, now I have even more to do. Because I think so often we parents and we both have young children, it feels like you're just trying to get to the end of the day. It feels like you're trying to get to bedtime without drowning. Yes. Right? Like you're just like, please can we put them to bed? Please can we get there?
Yes.
And so they might be starting to feel overwhelmed thinking, oh, here's just another thing that I have to do. But I think one of the things that you argue is that this is actually like forming these habits is something that can actually help the job of parenting. So what would you say to some of those parents who are already overwhelmed and maybe hearing this and thinking, is this going to add to my overwhelm?
I would say that the hardest thing to do as a parent is to keep living the normal life that you have. Because what is exhausting and what is tiring is not carefully choosing your habits and modeling after them after discipleship to Christ. What's exhausting is to continue the normal American pattern of life. And this is the claim in both of my books, is that we already have a program of habits. Everyone does. You can't get rid of habits. And that's the problem. Most of our invisible default habits are leading us into these cycles of impatience or busyness or technology addictions or worse addictions. And just like Jesus says, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. That is not theoretical advice. That is a practical reality of when we conform our lives to patterns of spiritual worship of God instead of these other things. It is not a simple solution, but it is a real one. Like I'm not saying it's not easy to. Nothing important is easy. It might be hard to make that change, but that yoke of Jesus is easier than the American yoke. And so I was just trying to encourage parents and anyone else who's thinking about habit change as spiritual formation that it is light to take on the burden of Christ. And so I think of this as an opportunity to not just parent better, but parent more lovingly and to enjoy it because of all that. So I think it's a real invitation. And the second thing that came to my mind there, which I think is really exciting, is you mentioned, a lot of us are, especially with young kids, my kids range in age from 3 to 9 at the time of this podcast. A lot of our life in these younger years, especially, is just constant survival tasks, diaper changes, meals, getting up in the middle of the night to help somebody. And we think like, oh my gosh, I can't get my head above water to think about this really spiritually important stuff because I'm just stuck in these daily tasks. One of the most, brilliant and beautiful ideas that I came across as I was researching and reading this book came from a couple other writers, most of them Catholic, who actually argued that common life in the family is so ferociously spiritual that it would make monastics jealous. As in, like, we think we need to get away to this retreat, and be like silent and in nature and quiet to really experience God. And some great spiritual writers who actually are monastics argue, I've done that for 30 years and my mom still seems to be more patient and connected to God than I am because she's parented for 30 years. and that idea really stuck with me. And I really started to dig into that and write about that. And so one of the claims you'll find in Habits of the Household is that this is a spiritual formation ground. These ordinary tasks are precisely the kinds of things that sanctify you into a more loving, a more patient, a more present person who is, surprise, surprise, more like Jesus because of all the diapers you've changed. And that to me is like so encouraging. That means that what we're doing matters, not because you line up all the diapers and you show the money on the Excel sheet. It's because changing these diapers makes you like Jesus. Washing the babies makes you like him who washes feet. So there's this amazing realm of sanctification, which I think just means that the household is such a spiritual place. And that's really what I want people to see, that in these mundane habits are incredible spiritual opportunities for you as much as for your children.